Be seated. So, confession. Twice a year I sit down and I plan out sermons for 6 months at a time, and I do that, with prayer and a lot of thought, and sometimes they change. But this week I got to the passage and the title. And I said to myself, holy cow, this is Thanksgiving week. How in the world did that happen? It's like I don't know. I knew it was coming, but I didn't know it was here. And so I began to process that, and I began to realize that this is, believe it or not, some of you have been here for all of them, this is the 20th Thanksgiving service I've been a part of with you. Isn't that crazy? 2 decades. 2 decades. You don't have to clap, I know, and it's a long time. I get it. But as a tradition, I've always kind of told you some things that I'm thankful about. Some of them are silly. Some of them are very serious. But I think sometimes we overlook some of the good stuff, right? So a couple of things that I'm thankful for, a few things I'm thankful for this year. The first one is maskless days. It seems like it's been forever since that's been a reality, but how cool was it to go to a restaurant and not have to put a mask on? If you go to North Carolina, you have to, but here it's been really amazing. Another thing I'm thankful for is fans in stadiums and arenas. I know that probably sounds really bizarre, but all the games without people there were so boring. Anyway. I am thankful for an abundance of toilet paper and paper towels. And anytime I go to the store, I can get some if I need them. Never thought I would be thankful for that, right? I am thankful, and you'll appreciate this, Gary, I am thankful that I get to eat or not, and it's not dependent on how well I play golf. Right? I get to eat. It doesn't matter how well I play, I'm still going to eat. And that is a beautiful thing, especially this year. I am thankful, in a more serious note, for the beauty of creation. And so when we went to Asheville last week and just out in the middle of nature, I was reminded how creation renews me. And I was reminded of Romans 1, if you haven't read Romans 1, and how we're without excuse because we see what God has made and we see the beauty of what he put together, and it all points to him. And just reminded of that. And of course, I'm so incredibly thankful for the people in my life. And those who know us know this, but by far, my wife is the crown jewel of the family. And so it is, I married way out of my league and outputted my coverage, however you want to say that. And so I'm so grateful for her. I'm thankful for my kids and even my son-in-law. I'm thankful for you too. And for my kids, and of course, sweet little Nora, our granddaughter. We celebrated her first birthday yesterday, which is really hard to believe. And of course, my extended family, my parents, and my brothers, and my brothers-in-law, and all of those extended folks in my families. I'm so grateful for them. But being the 20th, I'm incredibly thankful for you. And I don't say it enough. I know I love you, and I'm so grateful to be here, and I love what I do, and it is such an honor to share these times with you. So thank you for being you, and thank you for going through all the stuff we've been through the last 20 years. That's been crazy, and the last 18 months are up there on the list of some of the most crazy. So, but thank you for taking that journey with us. I want us to look at the 95th Psalm today. And just a little background. First of all, there's not a lot of background. We don't know when it was written or who wrote it. But here's what we do know, is that it was written during a time that the temple existed, because it was a call to the temple to worship the Lord. And so that narrows it down to, I don't know, 5 or 6 centuries that you can choose from. But it was this call to worship, to come and celebrate God and who he was and what he had done for the people. So the 95th Psalm, and if you're in the room, it's on page 595. And so this call to worship in the temple. Come, let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song. For the Lord is the great God, the great King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. Come, let us bow down and worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Today, if only you would hear his voice, do not harden your hearts as you did at Meribah, as you did that day at Massah in the wilderness. And just as a side note, that was the day that they complained to Moses because they didn't have enough water. So they lost their trust in God. Verse 9, where your ancestors tested me, they tried me, though they had seen what I did. For 40 years I was angry with that generation. I said, they are people whose hearts go astray, and they have not known my ways. So I declared on oath in my anger, they shall never enter my rest. Okay, so we're going to focus on the first 7 verses here. And going back to verse 1, come let us sing for joy to the Lord. Let us shout aloud to the rock of our salvation. A couple of things there that would, and we have to look at this through Jewish eyes for it to make complete sense. And so when they talk about God being the rock of their salvation, what they're talking about is the faithfulness of God throughout their history. That God has let them survive as a people. And they would look back over the Exodus and the time in Egypt and how God delivered them from that. And they would look back through the many times in the Judges that God stepped in and conquered their enemies for them. And time again how God was faithful to carry them through as a people. And so when they talk about God as the rock, it's like he is their protector. And that's what they would hear. That God is my protector. Yahweh is our protector. He's the one who has brought us through. He is the one who saved us. And so they also talk about sing for joy and let us shout aloud. And those words in the Hebrew are words of exuberant praise. Come and shout and celebrate how wonderful God is. And I read those words and I think, we get more excited when our sports teams play or our favorite artist is performing than we do over our God. And we need to realize that the Jewish people would celebrate God with loud exclamations of how wonderful he was because of all he brought them through and how faithful he'd been. And so I want to point out as we talk about Thanksgiving that one of the things about which we must be thankful or we should be thankful is all that he's brought us through. If we look over the last 2 years, we have to be honest and say he's brought us through a lot. And the fact that we're still here and still functioning and still going on as individuals, as a community of faith, as a society, it's really overwhelming that we're still going on because God has been so faithful. And I think it is sometimes we have to have things taken away from us before we realize how good we have it. And I think we need to look back and we need to realize God has been incredibly good being our rock through difficult times. This semester at school, at the college, has been amazingly awesome. And it's been amazingly awesome for one simple reason. The students are in the classroom with me. For 3 semesters or 2.5 semesters, what happened was I would sit in front of a computer screen and I would talk to it. And I could see my face, but the college had declared that students didn't have to show their faces. And so I'm talking to a screen. And so not only did they not have to show their faces, they didn't have to talk out loud. They could respond to me on the side through an instant message. And so when class starts at 8:30, I know what's going on in my brain, that at 8:29 their alarm goes off, they roll over, turn their computer on, and they plug in, and they try to act like they're participating. So I ask lots of questions and all of these things, and it's really hard because there's not a whole lot of things that I can say I do this well, but when I'm speaking publicly, I can read your faces and see whether or not I'm connecting. In the classroom, that's really easy, but when you can't see anybody's face, it's like, I have no idea what's going on. And so all of a sudden they show up to class and it's like, yes, I can see everybody. But that was never a big deal until it was taken away. And I think we forget how many times God has been good to us and how much he's given to us and how blessed we have been. And sometimes stuff has to be taken away from us before we realize, he's really brought us through a lot. You think about the last 2 decades, we've been through a lot as a society. But God's been faithful. And I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to come to the realization that, and Jay talked about this last week, is we have points in our lives where God has been so incredibly faithful. And we look back to those times as monuments of his faithfulness and his trustworthiness. And we look back to this, and whether it was a struggle with a job or a struggle in a relationship or a struggle with health or someone else's health, God has been faithful to be our rock. And so the Israelite people would come, and out of their history, they would celebrate God as the rock of their salvation. And so as we talk about Thanksgiving, I think we need to remember how good he's been and what he's brought us through. Verse 2, we move on, and it says, "Let us come before him with thanksgiving and extol him with music and song." The second thing that I want us to point out is that really true worship cannot happen without thanksgiving. True worship can't take place unless thanksgiving is a part of it. Now think about that with me. And one of the things that is so difficult is sometimes we live life comparatively. Meaning we forget what we have and how good it is because we see somebody else and see how much better they have it, and it becomes frustrating. And so Thanksgiving's not at the forefront. What is at the forefront is what I don't have. This past week, and again back to the college, we were talking about Confucianism, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Confucianism. Not really a religion as much as it is a philosophy. And one of the things that Confucius taught was to be frugal. And class members, most of them have no idea what that means. And I said, you don't spend money on stuff that is not necessary. And one of the students raised their hand and said, well, how do you know something's not necessary? And I don't know why it popped into my brain and came out of my mouth, but this is what I said. I said, how many pairs of shoes do you have? And it's like I just caught her with her hand in the cookie jar. So how many pairs of shoes? She was like, I don't know. And I said, I'm not judging you by the amount of shoes that you have. But how many do you really need? And then the class was like, well, you really only need 1 or 2. And so I think sometimes we get so caught up in what other people have that we forget to be thankful for what God's given us. Last week when we were in Asheville, we went with friends that had never been before. And if you go to Asheville with friends that have never been before, one of the things you're going to do is go to Biltmore. Okay? Once you've been there, you've seen it. It's a really big house, 175,000 square feet. Big house. At Christmas time, it is beautiful. There are Christmas trees everywhere. I don't know how many people they had put up those Christmas trees, but it is pretty amazing. And we took every tour imaginable of the house. But we got on the campus, and I was talking to Buddy, who was driving, and he said, well, what do you think about Biltmore? And I said, well, here's the deal for me. When I go to Wales, I realize how much I have. There's so much distress there. They've been so oppressed by the British government for so many centuries. And they struggle horribly. Their suicide rate is off the chart. Their alcoholism rate is off the chart. And it is a struggle to get through every single day. And I go to Wales, and I realize how much I have. I go to Biltmore, and I realize how much I don't have. And I think that's what we do, is too many times we live this journey comparatively. And when we do that, we stop being thankful for what we have. And I think if we're really going to honor God in worship, and we're really going to celebrate him and extol him, as the word the psalmist used, is we have to focus on what we've been given, not on what we're missing. And so I want to challenge you and me this week to, as you are thankful and go through the process of Thanksgiving, sometimes it gets so crowded with all the things that have to take place that we don't stop and think, wow, God's really been good. He's not only protected me as my rock, but he's given me so much. He's blessed me with so many things. So I want to encourage us to realize and to really focus on the reality that, yeah, he has been good in what he's given. And if you find yourself stuck in this pattern of focused on what you don't have, then you're going to find that peace is going to be nowhere to be found. Joy is not going to be a part of your journey. And so we stop and we're grateful for what we've been given. And whether it's material things or it's time with people or whatever it is, we stop and we say, thank you, God, for the blessings I have. And I'm not competing with the person down the street. I'm just content with whatever you've given me. That's where you want to be. That's where you want to be. All right, it goes on. The psalmist goes on. Verse 3, for the Lord is the great God, the King above all gods. In his hand are the depths of the earth, and the mountain peaks belong to him. The sea is his, for he made it, and his hands formed the dry land. So the psalmist goes on and says, let's take a minute and remember who it is we're worshiping. Let's remember the God we worship is the one true God, number one, but he's the one that made everything we see. And he's in charge of the world from the tops of the mountains to the bottom of the ocean. It's all his. He made it. He's in charge of it. He has given it to us. He's the one who spoke the words and out of nothing made everything. He's the one that has done the impossible over and over again. He's the one that sent the fire that Jay talked about last week from heaven. He's the one who brought his son back to life. He's the one that did the impossible healings. This is the God we serve. And the psalmist said, let's not forget who he is. Let's not forget his power. Let's not forget his majesty. Let's not forget his significance, that everything exists because he decided that it would. This is the God we worship. This is the God who can measure the universe by the span of his fingers, Isaiah said, who can measure the waters of the earth in the cup of his hand. This is the God we worship. And I think sometimes we forget the majesty and the glory of the God that we serve and how incredible it is that he loves us at all. And see, that's the last thing that I want us to see in verses 6 and 7. Come, let us bow down in worship. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker, for he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, the flock under his care. Two things there. One, he made us. He made us just like he wanted us to be. David in the 139th Psalm was talking about how incredible it is that no matter where he goes, God is there. And he said these words, and God knit me together in my mother's womb. And I want to encourage you that when you look in the mirror, you are seeing someone who God made just the way he wanted you to be. Think about that. I know we look in the mirror and we see all the things we don't like. But God made us just like he wanted us to be, in his image. He's our maker. This incredible, brought everything into existence, made you. What a joy. He make us. He protects us. He is our shepherd. You see, for the Jewish people, the word shepherd would have been very clear to them. A shepherd leads the sheep where they should go. A shepherd protects the sheep from enemies. The shepherd cares for the sheep. He finds lost sheep and brings them back. He is the one that nurtures and cares for them and puts his life at risk for the sheep. And so they would have heard, God is my shepherd. That means he takes care of me. And so all of a sudden you have this picture of this incredible God who made everything, who made you just like he wanted you to be, who is also the one who cares for you day to day. And as we come to this week, that's a lot to be thankful about. No matter what goes on in this world, no matter what falls apart, no matter what decisions are made by other people, our God is still our shepherd. And he still loved us enough to make us just like we are. And so this week, I just want to challenge you as you celebrate. And I know we're going to eat too much. We're going to watch too much football. We're going to spend a lot of time with family. And that's going to be the priorities. But let's be honest. Let's stop and let God be a part of the celebration. And let's say thanks. Because he has been so incredibly faithful as our rock. Let's pray.